Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 2, and this is
Mr. Murphy,
the glorious, the amazing, the chemistry teacher. And Mr. Murphy is an expert in everything when it comes to science and physics and space and everything. So we decided to invite him here.
Amateur in all of those things.
So our first talking point is, why is the Mars colonization controversial?
I think that one's the same answer as, like, why is NASA controversial? Like, anytime we talk about space exploration, people don't see the direct benefit. Like, if I hand you a hamburger today, you see that immediate benefit. Oh, I got food. That's an immediate benefit. Everyone knows what that is. We talk about colonization, you talk about NASA, anything like that. You don't see the direct benefit immediately. You all don't even recognize some of the benefits you have, like the entire cell phone revolution. That's all NASA. That's all scientific exploration that doesn't happen without those programs. I mean, it's insane. So why is it controversial? Money. It costs a lot of money. And then people don't see the purpose in it because some of the purposes aren't actually visualized right now. So,
is it worth those purposes to be putting in the money and the time and the effort?
I mean, that's your personal opinion. In my opinion, yeah, I feel like we should have been there 10, 15 years ago. But, so, yeah.
Do you think currently we have the technology possibilities to go now?
Technology, yes. Willpower, no. We're going to hit on some of these things pretty soon. But in reality, when we go to Mars and we try to colonize Mars, we will lose humans. People will die. It is a dangerous atmosphere to live in. It's a dangerous environment to live in. People will die. And it was tragic, but the early days of NASA, we lost a lot of people in the early days of NASA. Rockets exploded, things crashed, and there just is in a certain exploration mindset of acceptable losses. I mean, you guys have studied westward expansion, right, in your U.S. history classes. Did anyone say, oh, we shouldn't go to California? Just let's not do that. No. I mean, we just accepted the fact that we needed to expand the country and that some people wouldn't survive. I know there's a lot of people that kind of go, we have this huge planet, yada, yada, yada. But if you look at the actual history of the world, like not just the history of human civilization, there have been 5 mass extinctions. And each of those mass extinctions typically has some sort of major Earth-wide cataclysmic event that's not caused by humans. So there's nothing really to stop that sort of thing happening again. But if humans were on, say, the moon, or if humans were, say, on the Mars, there's less of a chance of humans being wiped out as a species. So, I mean, dinosaurs were on the planet for
long time, 400
million years. And I think humans, as we acknowledge them today, have been on the planet, I think, this is a terrible, it's off the top of my head, but I think it's only like 20,000, 40,000 years. It's just not very long. So
it's definitely worth moving humans to a different planet, even before there has been any grand discoveries really found on Mars.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think 100%. I mean, the process of us getting from here to there, so many things have to be developed and thought through, and some of those ideas guaranteed will help humans on the planet.
Like the resources, like
just oh, that's good. I like that.
That's perfect. That's great.
So that's the brain break. I'm done. I don't have to think anymore.
Thank you for coming.
I did good.
That was great. That was good.
All those kids probably getting their cell phones right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some of the technologies that are being developed now will indirectly help people. Just like traveling to Mars, we're probably going to have to figure out ways to protect those people from gamma rays. There's a lot of ideas out there about shielding the rockets with like water and this and that. But who knows how those things might also improve shielding for exposure to radiation on the planet in extreme areas. I don't know. There's just a lot of unintended positive consequences.
So you're saying by fixing the problems that we'll face sending people to Mars, it'll help a lot, benefiting people that are already here?
Yeah, there's so many technologies that need to be developed in order to get from Earth to Mars, and for those astronauts or cosmonauts, whatever you want to call them, to survive the trip, we're going to have to develop technologies, right? And currently, we might need those technologies, but there's no funding, there's no willpower to have it done. But if we have to fix them in order to make these 6-10 people survive the trip, well, once we've created that technology, now it exists for anyone else to use it. So that's really the benefit of creation of any technologies. Once it's out there, it's available. Now, the cost is prohibitive initially, but no one would have thought 30 years ago, that cell phones can do what they do today. No one. A cell phone 30 years ago was a thing that you used to make phone calls with, and that was it. What we do today with them is just insane by comparison. So I want you to imagine that same revolution is going to happen in your life. There's a piece of technology that you have not imagined that's going to radically alter your life. Like, you're going to have eyeballs replaced so that you can see in the internet. You're going to have glasses, because that's probably a little less invasive. You're going to have earpieces put in. You're going to have just life-altering changes. We already have people who are having
the brain chip, right?
Yeah. We already have
Neuralink.
Amputees that are having limbs reattached, and they can control the limbs with existing muscle fibers and things like that. I mean, there's just going to be just insane changes in the next 30 years. Technology is speeding up; it's not slowing down. So, your grandkids are pretty much just going to be robots. So,
my grandson's name is.
What am I talking? Your kids, not your grandkids. Your kids.
What's your view on terraforming the planet?
I think it's unrealistic. Mars does not have the same. It's I think it's 0.6 or 0.8 our gravity, so it can't really maintain a good atmosphere because not enough gravity. You have to have a gravitational pull
to
hold the air in place with that spin, and they have the same rotational spin similar to us. Their day, one rotation of their planet is about the same as ours. Theirs, like they exist. Mars's rotation is about the same as ours. But there's not enough gravity to hold air in place.
It'll just fly off.
It's not going to stay there. So they have their atmosphere is 1/100th of ours, which is why it's difficult to, those little helicopters you've seen maybe flying on Mars. Again, that's not something you would have thought of 30 years ago. Those little helicopters can't weigh anything because they're being raised up on air that's almost non-existent.
Right.
So. I don't think terraforming is reasonable. I think bubble colonies, big glass domes. You don't really have to worry about weather so much.
Okay.
There's the biggest thing they have there is sandstorms.
So you're saying that it would just the bubble colonies, we just have to be in spacesuits whenever we
No, you live
out?
inside the bubble colony.
Yeah,
so you would
never go out.
You would never go outside. But I mean,
is that worth it?
Your bubble colony eventually would be the size of Sterling. The entire bubble. There would be no outside. Everyone would
just
live.
one big bubble.
Do you think maybe they could build underground?
That's one of the. There's a couple initial ideas, is to land a bunch of pre-positioned capsules and things, and then when humans arrive, you connect those capsules together, and you have less little above ground colony. But moving underground is one of the major ideas. You're then shielded by a lot of the harmful rays that our atmosphere blocks. Our atmosphere has an ionosphere, it has a magnetic field, and it blocks a lot of the harmful rays that the sun is ejecting. So we don't get access to that. But if you're in the space station, you have to be shielded. There's extra shielding around the planet, around the space station, to protect those people. And there's been... Do you guys know what sleeping is like on the space station? So if you go to sleep,
strap themselves.
they get strapped in.
Oh, yeah, like a seatbelt almost.
But if there's a cosmic ray storm and you're sleeping on the space station, the cosmic rays penetrate right through the space station and they cause lights to flicker inside your eyes while you're sleeping. So it's there's sparklers. You've lit sparklers for 4th of July.
Really?
So it's there's sparklers inside your eyeballs. It doesn't hurt. It's just those cosmic rays are interacting with the neurons in your brain, making you think that you're seeing light.
Oh, wow.
Now imagine having that for 9 months as you travel to Mars. You have to have proper shielding because those people would go, what? You'd go crazy, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So anyway, yeah, their atmosphere on Mars is non-existent, so it doesn't block events like that. So you have to then come up with some way of dealing with it, right? That's a technology that doesn't really exist, hasn't really been tested too well, so we'll see, But I'm sure there's people working on it right now. I just don't know them.
What do you think about going to Mars, colonizing, putting people up there, when there may still be a chance of living organisms up there that we just haven't discovered?
Yeah, I mean, they're not surface-based. The surface of Mars is mostly perchlorates and chlorates, which is just... There wouldn't be a form of life we would recognize, I guess. They'd be microbes. They'd be protozoa. And I don't know. I don't feel bad when I step on an ant. I definitely do.
Is that the same?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's more DNA in your body that's not Thomas, because there's more microorganisms living in you that aren't you than are. And I just be honest, I respect you more than any of those organisms inside of you. So,
good one, Thomas. Let's go.
I feel a lot the same way about those organisms that might exist on Mars. Let's preserve them. Let's hide, them. Let's set them aside. But I'm not too worried about them. Other than what? There's life on a different planet. That's amazing. What's that look like? What's its DNA like? How's it different from ours? Does it have DNA? Does it have something else? That would be fascinating, but I'm not too worried about protecting it, I do think that when they build those bubble cities, we're probably going to be mass seeding them with some sort of bacteria to digest the soil and make our oxygen. But
would that be the way to go about theoretically terraforming?
Inside the bubble, living in the bubble. Okay, yeah, you build the bubble so that you can contain the air you've made, because there's never going to be enough air for the whole planet, and it's going to mostly float away. So yeah, but if you were terraforming a zone that's encapsulated, that's encapsulated in a big giant glass dome or something, there's some ideas about
it's much more realistic.
Yeah, factory production in air or micro production. Micro production costs you no energy.
How's that work? Is that just putting the organisms?
Well, most of the oxygen on this planet was created during some era before dinosaurs, right? And it's just like a microbe that one day existed and realized it could chew apart these rocks, and those rocks were free. So the microbe just slowly ate the rocks and freed up oxygen. And then once the oxygen and carbon dioxide, all that was released into the atmosphere, different organisms could then take advantage of that. So we just need to figure out what can do that for our purposes and put it in place. The tricky part is, again, I think I mentioned chlorates and perchlorates. Those are nasty chemicals. So you have to figure out something that can eat that and free up the oxygen without also being able to eat your machinery, without being able to, so you don't want to release one organism that you then have to then fight later.
Yeah.
So
causing future problems for us.
Yeah. Are we at all on track with your questions? Or are we just all over the place?
This works. I mean, this was just in case we just got,
Yeah. Well, we just need, we're pretty good.
Okay.
I do have a question to ask.
Go ahead.
It's, you said that the trip to Mars will take 9 months.
It's depending on when you go. Yeah. What was your question, though?
The question was, because that's mainly a big reason why people think it's controversial, because it's a dangerous trip.
It is. Yeah.
There's a lot of things you need to do to mitigate risk on that trip. So what do you think are...
So let's just be clear for anyone that's doesn't understand it. There's the sun, there's the earth, there's Mars. Mars is farther away. Mars is traveling around and we're traveling around, and you have to time your trip. So it's kind of like jumping from one train to another train.
Oh, okay.
And if the trains are moving in opposite directions, that's a very dangerous jump. If trains are traveling in the same direction, you just have to figure out a way to run, jump, and then land, right? Mm-hmm. And we're talking about the run, jump, and land, and you have to time it such that they meet up properly.
Yeah.
And as Mars is going by and we're going by, we have to launch at the right time. Now, if the trains aren't anywhere near each other, you've got to fly for a long time before you land. And so if Mars is on the other side of the sun from us, you don't want to launch, right? So it's all about timing and planning that. And then once you're there, that's the end, isn't it?
At the end.
Yeah. Once you're there, you then have to time your return trip, right? Like your return trip has to be based upon that same thing. So if there's an emergency and you have to leave Mars, your return trip is at a terrible time frame.
That's another argument for the not going to Mars side.
Yeah, you have to be very secure in your base, in your setup. And so most of the plans have pre-planned, drop all of the modules in place, your emergency rescue equipment, everything. You don't show up until you know everything works. So,
Okay.
right. I gotta get to
Final
class.
question.
Yeah.
Is it worth it, and would you go?
I would not go. I would not go at this age. I mean, I'm a little bit beat up at this point. You know what I mean? Like just too many random injuries, and I don't think I'd survive the trip.
Really?
I think it's too stressful. I think you're just not going to have a peaceful day. Every day is going to be, how do we keep moving forward? If I fail, people depend upon me, you know. Where there's people in my life that depend upon me now, but they have a support network, right, that could fill in some of the gaps. There'd be no support, and you just can't take 80 people with you. You're talking about 7 people, 10 people maybe, and everyone has to have a specialized job, and I just think don't pick me. Maybe I'm on trip 45.
Sure.
And we've perfected it.
Yeah.
Imagine
Maybe
what
whole
I teach, though.
And it's a vacation place, Len.
Sure.
I gotta get
All right.
class.
Thanks, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you.
All right.
Good.
See you in the next episode.
It didn't
Let's
record.
go. Oh no! All right. Thanks.